Hi guys, welcome to another movie crew review. Today we'll be reviewing Creation of the Gods 2, Demon Force.
The movie star Xiqi, Xiang, and Nashi.
In the second film of the Creation of the Gods trilogy, we follow the fight of the first film where we left off in the city of Wuershan as it's under attack from the Shang Dynasty, and they must defend their homeland from the invasion people as the Kunlun people try to help them. So we're going to get into this review, and Cameron is going to start us off.
Yeah, as movie crew, the first proper year we started, we watched the first one of this 2 years ago. It was the group's first Mandarin movie of all three of us watching the movie. And so we thought, why not give the second one a go as well? For me, it ticks all the boxes for any fantasy mythological movie. I really enjoy it. Just what sets it back for me is just the amount of characters that we have to remember and remind ourselves of where they were. I suppose maybe that's just a me issue and it's probably my fault, but it's just a bit harder for me to follow considering I have to read the subtitles as well. But everything else, I really enjoy the world and the fantasy aspect. I'm a sucker for all that stuff, and especially with the mythological aspect as well. I'm a bit of a nerd for that, and I love seeing all that in play. And I thought the action sequences in this one were really well done. They were really large scale and really felt really dramatic, and I thought the fight scenes were pretty good as well. Just some of the effects were hit and miss for me in this one. I think some things looked really good and some things looked a bit poor. But as a whole, I think for fantasy, the genre itself, I think you tend to find that the movies are going to be on the longer side, which this is. And so it did feel a bit dragged out. But you know what? I love a good fantasy movie. I think this ticks all the boxes. So I really enjoyed it. Moon?
I didn't like the first movie and I didn't actually remember much, but I think they did a good job actually. Like even just, they didn't give you like previously this happened, but they like spoke about what actually happened. So I kind of like was trying to remember while watching this movie. And I think this movie is way better than the first one. This is like on a grander scale. It's epic. I think the CGI looked very good in most of the parts. Just maybe a couple of here, their shots were a bit off. Maybe one character, the blue, the Dr. Manhattan looking guy was a bit off. Um, I think the main thing I didn't like the first one was the fox lady, the demon fox, and it was just all I remember is the fox lady seducing the king. But here we have a new character, General Deng, and she was fantastic. I think she played a quintessential emotional, gave the emotional backstory sort of to this movie. So her character is like very stoic in the beginning and soon we realize other things and it's actually at the end pretty emotional things happen. So I think it's a must watch fantasy movie. John?
Yeah, so I didn't particularly like the first one. I rewatched it over the weekend to get my bearings for this one. And to be honest, it doesn't really have too much of a need to watch it if you're going to watch this one. You don't lose too much, I don't think, if you haven't seen it. I thought that the storyline for this one was different from the first one, which is nice. We follow the Lady General as she is fighting the war and we see her transform over the film. That was probably the most interesting storyline for me. And I think that the development, especially at the end of the film when you see what happens with that character, was probably the thing that I enjoyed the most. You're more introduced to the giants, which were a small part of the end of the last film. So we get to see them fight a bit in the wars that happen between the two tribes, I guess you'd say, as they're going back and forth. And as those four giants go through and what happens with them and, you know, how they're playing off in the film, I found that quite a good part because it's something different. It's not just a, group of two equal sides fighting. And that's where the magic and the fantasy come into it a bit. Probably the effects, yes, were a bit on the lower end side this time compared to the last time, but I think that's because they were more grandiose and had a lot more ambitious things, especially with the resurrected guy that looked like Dr. Manhattan, and there was like three of them coming off him. He looked kind of like a pre-render as opposed to a final rendering, so that kind of let the visuals down for me a bit, especially because in the latter part of the film he was in it quite a fair bit, so it just makes what looked like good effects, good shots, just look a bit poor. Other than that, it's something that for me I'm not overly interested in as a story topic, so for me it doesn't mean that I don't think it's a good film, I just didn't find it particularly interesting from the first one, so the interest for me didn't carry over to this one, and that's more just a personal thing for me than anything else. It's not to say that this film is bad, it's just the amount of characters in the storyline coming through, you start to get lost if you're not really on the ball with it. There's so many characters in this film that they pretty much just have names every time a new character pops up, which is, it's a interesting way to do it, but I think a better writing structure is where you're able to introduce and learn about, a succinct amount of characters instead of a lot of characters doing small bits and pieces, and we're not focusing as much on the main characters. But other than that, it's a good watch for a Mandarin film, I think.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the sorcery aspect and the mythological creatures aspect. I thought they really emphasized it in this one.
Yeah.
I don't really recall too much of those things happening in the first one, but this one, it really emphasized it, and I thought the way they depicted that sort of stuff, to see the Chinese side of it as opposed to the Western side, was refreshing for me, and I really enjoy that aspect of it.
Yeah, me too. Even the battle scenes are like, I think they added stakes, like with the giants, even not like dumb giants, they had like weaponry, and it was really cool to look at and very useful. And then they had those disco lights, and like even like it added to the plot and like how it related to the general. I think it was really well done. And yeah, like you said, the sorcery stuff, I think it's pretty cool. I really enjoyed it.
It was good that the giants were individuals.
Yeah.
Like they weren't three generic giants. Each of them had a different sort of power and weapon, and how they utilized that. I thought that was really cool too.
And I guess it's a tiny bit of a spoiler, but how they get defeated in the film is quite nice to see, because usually it's kind of like that climactic part of the film, if that makes sense in a way. But this felt more earned, but not like they harped on it too much, which is a nice way to do it. So yeah, I think that the Giants for me were probably the highlight from this. But yeah, I remember the cancel at the start. They were in the last film a bit, so that was something that I was expecting to happen, because they're kind of like the narrator catch up people. But yeah.
But I thought every battle had balance, like you said, because the Giants were tipping the scale in their favor, but then something else happens for the opposing side. So it was always balanced, and sometimes the scale would look a bit unbalanced, but then it will always come back and really help the battle scenes, I think.
And it's good that they told us that there are 3 post-credit scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a good advance warning when the credits, as soon as they start, there's 3 post-credit scenes. So I think more movies should do that.
Yeah, especially, they should just do like 1 post-credit scene at the end or something, like, because the post-credit scenes, they are important for the next film coming up. Yeah. But they're not like a short, like 30-second thing. Like, they're like it's like 5 minutes of the film they split up into 3 parts and put it midway. But yeah, the credits are what, like 10, 15 minutes?
Oh, I don't know. But they were very integral.
Yeah, they are very integral. And I can't wait for 3rd part.
Yeah, me too.
I'm interested in seeing the conclusion to the trilogy and how it all wraps up.
Yeah. All right, guys, we're going to give our scores.
Yeah.
Moon, how many demon giants out of 10?
I'll give it 8 demon giants out of 10.
John?
I'm going to give it 5.5 demon giants out of 10.
Yeah, I'll give it 8 demon giants out of 10. Alright guys, make sure to like, subscribe, check out our socials, and we'll catch you on the next one. Ciao.